Hello garden friends, welcome back. I'm here behind the house and you can see the barn behind me. It's a cloudy, slightly chilly day today, but if you look behind me you can see the landscape is a little bit different. We've lost almost all of our snow cover. We had a rain event a little while ago and 50-degree weather, and most of the snow on the property is gone, with the exception of our little glacier back here that always takes until like late April to disappear. Unfortunately, we're going to get some more snow in a couple of days, so winter is not quite over yet. As I walk around the property here, it's still too early to dig in the garden beds. So of course I'm just spending my time, thinking about what I want to do this year and getting all excited and building that list, and realize that I really have to stop doing that. I make my lists so long that they just become impossible to do. So, and last year was the perfect example. I had so many different projects going on and it just felt like nothing was getting done correctly or the way I wanted, and most of them weren't completed by the time the snow started flying. So this year, new me, I'm limiting myself, I swear I am, limiting myself to 5 projects, and that's it. 5 projects. I'm not starting anything new. These are all projects that are underway already that I haven't completed for years, some of them, and they need to get done before I can move on to the other parts of the garden on the property that I want to do. I have to get these done. So I'm going to take you through the 5 things that I'm going to focus on in 2026. And by telling you all this, I'm committing myself publicly to only working on these 5 things this year. And if you see me working on any other project besides these 5 things, feel free to yell at me in the comments. All right, so let's get going. The very first project is the one you see right in front of you. It is this entire space behind the house. Not Susie though, she can stay. So this is a project I've been working on, or wanting to work on in bits and pieces. I've worked on some of it, but this is the year that we finally have to address this back section. And primarily it's all of this grass that runs right along the back of the house. We finally got gutters on the back side of the house, which was really sort of the bottleneck for most of this project. So now the water that comes off the back of our house and our carport is not going to be dumping right here at the base of our house and making this very, very damp. Plus we have water that comes down the hill and into the gardens, and it seeps this way as well. We did take a step of creating a drainage trench on the top of this perennial border, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. That has stopped a lot of the flow of the water downhill into this space, but we still had a tremendous amount of water coming off the house. So the very first thing we're going to do this spring, once the ground thaws, is get rid of all this grass. All of it. It's all going. And it's hard to see because there's snow under most of it, and then overgrowth of garden plants. But the perennial border here is edged with rocks. This rock edging is going to be moved just slightly forward and raised a bit with more rocks, because we have way too many rocks here. So I'm going to clean up this edge. And then this whole strip here, and I'll walk all the way up here so you can fully see the length here. This whole strip, starting at the patio back here, and then we'll turn around back towards Susie. So this whole strip is going to get taken out. All this grass is going to be gone. And I'm not sure if it's visible on the camera. I'll try to scrunch down here. But there is this hump right here at the beginning of this pathway. You can kind of see it goes uphill. It's uphill here, and down here, and then it goes that way. There's sort of a hump like that, right there. That has bothered me since the day we bought the property, but didn't have, well, hello Susie, didn't have the time or the energy to deal with it. But this hump is going to be scraped down so that it starts level with the patio, and then does a nice gentle slope down toward the greenhouse. Right now it's a bit of a hill, and then it drops off down here, and there's a bit of a valley here where the gas line from the propane tank goes. So all of this is going to get smoothed out, leveled out, and then covered with ledge pack. I may at some future point do stepping stones of some sort, but at this point we're just going to do ledge pack, maybe a little gravel over it, but generally it's just going to be ledge pack. So yeah, that's going to be a big project. Both my husband and I are going to be digging here for a while, but it needs to be done. Unfortunately, we can't really get, we don't really have the proper equipment, but we can't really get our tractor too far back here, so it's going to be a lot of wheelbarrowing of stuff. And then once this hump is taken out, this rock border here in the perennial border will actually drop down probably about 6 inches to become level with the rest of this pathway. So this whole rock border is going to have to be rebuilt, reconfigured as we dig that out. So the other thing in this space that is going to need reconfiguring is this little shelter for the mini split. I have some ideas to make it prettier, but we do want to leave the roof over the mini split to protect it from rain and wind. So that'll get a redo, as well as potentially trying to hide the gas line that goes into the kitchen and into the addition. Plus, this whole back side of the house has to be painted. We did some siding repairs last fall, and so all of this is going to have to get repainted once the weather warms up. But again, we didn't want to really do any of that until we address this, the water issue, and until we had the gutters in place to prevent the water from hitting the back of the space. So continuing down here toward the carport and the greenhouse, so the ledge pack pathway will continue straight to the greenhouse pad. I have not decided what I'm going to be doing with this little slope up and out of the garden. This is where we bring the tractor in if we need to bring the tractor down. So we're going to have some sort of like driveway, something here for the tractor. Probably won't address it this year, but something for the future to deal with. But the pathway that we are going to be digging will come along here and go straight to the greenhouse. We'll maintain the width that is behind the house straight to the greenhouse, so it's a consistent width, probably about like that, up to the greenhouse. To my right here, as we round the corner of the carport, is a little area that looks down on the pond garden, and this area will be filled in with some good soil and probably a rock edging along here, and will be planted. Haven't figured out exactly what it'll be. A mix of shrubs and things that are pretty from both sides, from this side and from the pond side. And it will curve around and meet up with this outer edge of the staircase. So the bed will end about here. So it's a nice little planting bed. I think it'll be really pretty once it's all filled in. And it will also help slow down the flow of water from this hill here. If we have this planted and bermed up a little bit with plants in that can absorb the runoff. Swinging back over here, you can see this drainage channel here. This is going to get incorporated as well. This is all big gravel right now with a lining underneath it, and it carries the water that comes down the hill into it, and then there's actually a buried perforated pipe in here that goes around the rocks and into a drainage swale on the other side. And it's done a really good job of capturing a lot of the water that comes running down this pasture in the spring in particular, but also with heavy rain events. Okay, back here on the greenhouse pad, I'll back up here so you can see the connection. So hopefully by the end of the summer, this entire space here will be one contiguous path that will blend in to the gravel bed here in front of the greenhouse. We'll get rid of this rock border because we won't need it, because the ledge pack will butt right against it. And then the ledge pack will probably expand over here into the front of the top of the staircase. So there'll be a path coming from the back of the house to the greenhouse with a little jog over to the pond staircase. So that was just part A of this whole big behind the house project. Part B is this, the perennial border, or the pollinator border as I've come to call it. It's a mess, and it's just, it got away from me. And that happens when you have a lot of things going on. So this year I'm gonna tackle it for real and basically give it the same treatment I gave the kitchen view barn slope shade garden, top of the shade garden, where I'm gonna have to dig up every single square inch of this garden because it's infiltrated with quackgrass or Johnson grass. I haven't quite figured out which one it is. I think it might be actually Johnson grass. Anyway, it's grass with runners, and it comes from the pasture and infiltrates its way into the garden. And once it gets a hold, it's just, it's awful. I guess I'm just thankful it's not bindweed, but it's almost as bad. So I have to dig that all out, and then there is, and I've talked about this before, there is some sort of clustered bellflower that came in with something I got probably from a friend, and it not only spreads through its root system, but it self-sows. So it is everywhere in the garden, and although it's really pretty, I don't want it everywhere. And it's actually infiltrated in some of my perennials, like right in the actual plant. It's infiltrated itself into the plant. So I can't weed it out. So everything's got to come out section by section and make sure I get every bit of root out before I replant. Now I've got a lot of material in the vegetable garden that I've already rescued from this area or from other areas, or sown from seed and had intended to put in this area. Add that to all the plant material I've got here already. I'm not going to need a whole lot to put back in. I have ordered a few exciting perennials, I hope, and those will be coming probably late April. I'll probably have to heel them into the vegetable garden because I certainly won't get this done, in time to plant them right away. But I will have plenty of plant material. It won't really cost me much to do this, except my time and probably my husband's a little bit. He doesn't know this yet. So it's really just a labor project rather than an investment of money, but it's a big one. Let's take a little walk and I'll show you what I'm dealing with. Now I will qualify this by saying it is early March, mid-March, and we've had a very rough winter with a lot of snow. So in general, all of my gardens look like they look bad, for lack of a better description. It's just the time of year, so nothing's been cleaned up, and yeah, everything looks bad. But I'm looking at this thinking this is particularly bad. We have a lot of good stuff in here, though. We have some Nepeta, a lot of sedum, grasses, Carl Forster, feather reed grass, which I'm going to be keeping in that space up there. A ton of bee balm. I mean, this whole section here is native bee balm. And that's what bee balm does. It spreads itself through its roots and seeds, and it just takes over. So at least half of this is coming out, probably more. I will still have bee balm in here, but in smaller doses. I still have a lot of Siberian iris in here that needs to come out and go into the pond garden. Come down here. Yeah, it's just a mass of stuff. I can see coneflower heads, lots of coneflower heads, and there were some Shasta daisies in here as well. More bee balm. This is all bee balm. Look at that. Bee balm. Yay, bee balm. Lots of bee balm. I need to do a little more work on figuring out how better to cover this gas tank. The honeysuckle, this is Sensation. It's lovely, but it just isn't covering enough. So this may get relocated elsewhere, and something else with bigger leaves, thicker stems, something to cover is probably in order. This is Major Wheeler. I may be murdering that name, but honeysuckle, Major Wheeler, and it's got quite a bit of growth here. So this one will probably stay. It does a pretty good job once it's in leaf of disguising this gas tank, necessary evil. And I apologize, you're probably going to hear the dryer vent in the background. I'll try to walk away from the dryer vent here. So yeah, there's a ton more. There's some butterfly bushes in here, more feather reed grass, more echinacea here, and I'm trying to sow more seeds of this, but it does a pretty good job of self-seeding. This is verbascum wedding candles. I'll pop a picture up on the screen. And it self-sows all over the place, so I'm going to try to get it to self-sow some more, and by sowing some in a seed tray and planting it out. Now last fall, before the ground froze, I started digging out part of this garden. You can see this is fresh soil and fresh rocks here, and I replanted a few things. So that took me, you know, a day or two. Multiply that by all of that. So it's going to take me all summer. I hope not, but a good part of the summer to get this finally all shipshape and looking the way I want it to. All right, so on our way to project number 2, I will take you along this drainage channel to finish up explaining what's going to happen here. This drainage channel is going to get covered by another layer of gravel, I think. I'm still thinking about that, but it's going to get prettied up, probably with a good layer of gravel, weeded and all of that, and become the pathway that takes you to the barn slope garden and rejoins or joins up with the path that is already there. Take a little walk up this way. So this will join in with the path that I created last year for the barn slope and kitchen view gardens. And so this becomes sort of the central meeting point, going down the staircase there onto the patio, and then here's the wood chip path that goes up to the barn, and you know, this will eventually become garden, but not this year, unless by some miracle I finish all these projects. So yeah, so that's sort of the final bit of project number 1, is to get this pathway built after I've cleaned out all the weeds and daylilies and things I don't want in the edge of this garden. Clean it up and get a really nice pathway coming this way to connect to the rest of the garden over here. Okay, so project number 2, to keep you oriented here, this is the barn. I'm going to walk this way and show you project number 2 for 2026. And here it is. Project number 2 for 2026 is this rock wall behind the barn. When we built the barn, or had the barn built, we didn't build it. We hired a very capable company to build our barn. When it was built in 2022, we had a friend come over with an excavator and move a lot of these, especially the really big rocks, into place to form the base of this wall. They had to excavate out quite a bit and push the hillside back quite a bit to sit the barn on a level piece of ground. And it created this really steep slope that was just ripe for erosion and, you know, sliding the hill down into the driveway behind the barn. In order to prevent that, we started piling up rocks into a big rock wall here. We've been picking away at this since 2022 and we're still not done. And it drives me crazy because I can see it from the kitchen window and I can see the strip of bare earth that is above the last rocks that we've put in. And it drives me crazy. So this is the year that this will be finished. The other reason I want to finally finish it is so that I can plant it. I've started doing that, and I'll walk you through what I've done so far. But I really want the wall to be done before I can kind of go through and fill all the pockets with soil and start plunking in the plants that I envision growing in here. This is south facing, so it sits and bakes in the sun most of the day. It's a perfect environment for a rock garden filled with succulents and full sun plants that don't mind it being, you know, a little extreme between the hot and the cold, and it could be dry, but it could be wet too. So there's a lot of opportunity here to make this something interesting. So project number 2, let's take a walk through. Hey, that rhymes. Many of these boulders were just way too big for us to move on our own, so our friend with the excavator helped relocate some of these bigger rocks. And the vast majority of these came out of the ground with the excavation for the barn. So these are all local rocks. Basically starting right about here and panning this way, that top couple of feet of brown is what we need to finish piling rocks on. So it doesn't look like much, but each individual rock needs to be carted from, let me pan over, try to do this slowly so I don't make people motion sick, from the rock pile that's over here somewhere, right about there. Piles of rocks from the excavation of the barn sit over there, so we have to cart them over here and hand place them one by one. So all of these rocks have been, except for the big ones, which were done by the excavator, all these smaller rocks were done by us, by hand. All right, let's take a look at some of the pockets that I've planted already. Here's one. Some nice sedums. I don't know the name. I apologize. I'll try to look it up and get as close as I can, but it's a lovely burgundy colored sedum. So I just filled in some of the pockets like this with some soil, sandy soil, added, took some regular topsoil and mixed in some sand, and then tucked it into this little crevice. I've done a few more. Let's see if I can find. Oh, I think I put creeping phlox in this one. I'm hoping it survived the winter. There's a little bit there. We'll see. There's some more sedum. I know I had another type of sedum in here somewhere. Oh, where'd it go? All right. Let me come back here. I know I had a different colored, a yellow sedum. Oh well, probably not the best day to show you this. I know up on the top here, I do have some creeping phlox along the top of the wall here. And I'm gonna get a few more colors of creeping phlox to drape down over the rocks. This fuel storage cabinet will be relocated. And along the top here, and I've talked about this in other videos, I have native shrubs planted along the top. And I will probably do another video of that once these are all in leaf. They're hard to see right now. But there's going to be some deer fencing put up along the back of this. Unfortunately, in the couple of years that these shrubs have been in here, most of them anyway, I added a few last fall, they've been browsed by the deer pretty hard, which has stunted their growth. So gonna have to bite the bullet and put in some fencing to keep the deer off of this. They come off the pasture, come down the hill, and just right into this buffet of shrubbery. So we have to stop that. All right, so that is project number 2 for 2026. All right, I'm back in front of the barn because project number 3 for 2026 is painting the barn. When we built the barn in 2022, it was late, I want to say late August, early September when the project was finished. And I knew I wanted to paint the barn red. And I wanted to get it done before winter because I wanted to make sure that the wood was protected and didn't start to gray. Our winters can be pretty harsh, so I wanted to make sure I got the wood covered. So I worked like a fiend for like 2 months. In between, you know, all the other things, the gardens, vegetable garden, working at a nursery, all kinds of other stuff. And I managed to get the 3 main sides of the barn painted. So this is the east side. I got the east side, the south side, and then the other gable end on the west side done. And then I ran out of time before I got to the north side. And the north side is where we have the shed row to store equipment. And as you can see, it hasn't been painted. It was supposed to be my primary goal in 2023. It still hasn't been done. So I got to get this done. And unfortunately, it involves more work than it seems, because this isn't really that big a space. But we have to move all this stuff. This is our farm equipment, and I'm not going to paint the rafters, so I have to tape out all the rafters as well. So that's going to be fun. And finish the posts here, get this all prettied up, and paint that header and the top of these posts, and that end wall down there. So seems like a small job. It probably will take me maybe a week to get all of this done if you know, with everything else going on, maintaining the vegetable garden and some other things. I know I can get this done once I put my mind to it within a week. It's just buckling down and doing it. And this is the year we're going to get it done. I'm now down on the patio below the barn, looking up at the kitchen view garden, and then above that the barn slope garden. And this is where the majority of my work last year was done. But I'm not done yet, not by a long shot. As you know, gardens are never really done. They're always sort of an evolving process. But last year my focus was really getting the garden in, getting it dug up and, you know, new soil put on top and bark mulch, and trying to get some sort of the skeleton plants, the shrubs that I wanted in there, planted and settled in, the pathway dug out, all of sort of the structural stuff that I had envisioned for the garden, and a bit of the planting. But there's still a tremendous amount, as you can see, of bare soil. And bare soil is bad. I don't like bare soil. It needs to be covered with something, preferably plants, and not plants that I want, not weeds. And also because it's on a slope, it's doubly important that I get all of this soil covered, just to slow down the flow of water and slow down erosion. So project number 4 for 2026 is filling in and finishing this space here. Let's take a walk and I'll show you what I'm thinking and where the areas of most need are in this garden space. Hi, Suze. Sweet puppy. All right, down on this lower level, I had added some shrubs sort of in a hurry last year to get it filled in, and I'm kind of regretting some of these choices. So this spring, I think I'm actually going to pull some of these smaller ones up here out and put them down here and rethink this space right here and what I want to put in. I have some ideas. Stay tuned. It all depends on what's available at the nursery. But one of the first things that's going to come out is Annabelle here. If you remember from last year, Annabelle was just way too big for the space. It got above, really above the wall. So Annabelle, excuse me, this is actually Annabelle 2. Annabelle 1 is over here in the corner. She will also be coming out as soon as the ground is workable, and I see signs of life in her. So Annabelle, the original, and Annabelle 2 are both going to get dug up and put on the corner of the barn, just below the corner of the barn. There's also, I hope, going to be some sort of vertical shrub behind Annabelle to accentuate the corner of the barn, kind of echo this sky pencil holly, but also give some more vertical accent to the garden. And then the Annabelle will fill in front of it, and there might be something in front of the Annabelle if there's some space, some low-growing perennial. All right, so let's take a walk up the stairs. One interesting thing I noticed, I planted a whole bunch of creeping thyme in amongst the stones here on the stairs, and look at how pretty it is this time of year. It's purple, like this deep violet purple. It's so pretty. Multi-season interest, right? Okay, so sweeping up here, as you can see, there's a lot of space here in between the shrubs. And I know the shrubs are going to grow, continue to grow, but I need to cover the ground more in between and in front of all of these shrubs. So that'll be one of the parts of the project this year, is filling all this stuff in. The same with this section here, the barn slope garden. Need to add a few more shrubs and fill in some of these spaces with ground covers and perennials. I've got some peonies in here that were relocated from other parts of the garden. Some fairly significant deer damage to the euonymus here and to the fire chief arborvitae, which is now covered with chicken wire, along with the mountain laurel, the elf mountain laurel, got just decimated by the deer. So we'll see if that survives, how that looks once everything starts to green up. They may not make it, and so we'll have to replace it with something else. So again, more bare ground here. And this area here under the maple, or leading into under the maple, has a lot of perennials in it, but not a lot of winter interest. So I want to add a few shrubs that will give some winter interest. So when I look outside the kitchen windows, I can see something here in the winter. I've got this black cat rhododendron that is very black right now, true to its word. The leaves are normally green during the regular season, and then as the cold comes, the leaves darken right up into this beautiful, like chocolatey purple. Isn't that lovely? So I may add another one or two of these. They're just so pretty. All right, back up here, this geranium macarizum is looking so lovely in its winter color, the red. Love that. I'll probably be dividing these two up this year so I can have a few more and just sort of spread them around in this area to cover more ground. I'm really falling in love with these geraniums. Kind of my new favorite plant. All right, back up here on the barn slope. As you can see, the daylilies are all gone for the season. They will be poking their heads up pretty soon, as well as a whole pile of daffodils. So that strip will fill in pretty quickly, but below it, as you can see, there's still a lot of bare ground. This is where the Annabelles are going to go, and then some sort of vertical shrub here to sit on the corner. Let's come around here. So I did start planting. These are some carex taken from, swing slowly over here, from these guys. And I'm definitely going to be dividing these up again and getting more plant material that I can spread around the garden. Beautiful variegated leaf, and I apologize, I don't know the variety name because I lost the tag almost immediately after I planted them. I don't know where the tag went, but they're lovely and vigorous. So more of these will end up on the slope and in various parts of the garden. Still have some rocks to clean up, and still have to finish the rock border or rock wall, retaining wall. I'll back up here, try not to trip. So this rock wall will be continued all the way down to the exit down there. And as you can see, there's been quite a bit of erosion just in one winter. I'm going to have to dig all that back to put the rocks in. The deer got in here and munched my azaleas. All three of them got munched. Doesn't look like they touched the hydrangeas though. But this one got munched, and this one got munched. Whew, yeah, a lot of deer damage. So again, tremendous amount of bare soil here. That all has to just be filled in with stuff. Shrubs, perennials, things that that I've envisioned for this garden. I have a list, and I will certainly be showing you as I plant them. But that's sort of the big part of project number 4, is filling in all this bare soil. The other part of project number 4 is installing deer fencing. We're going to have to bite the bullet. The deer are just, they come down off the hill in herds and walk right by. And if they can get in here, instead of walking by, they come this way and come in and have a buffet. So I showed you how I put up this temporary deer fencing with bird netting. It's not enough. They've already snapped off a couple of these, so we're going to have to go to better deer fencing. We've got most of the materials here, so I'll show you that when we do that. But we're going to fence along the driveway here, and then continue the fencing across this blueberry structure, and then run the fence down a little further to deter them from coming in this way, and then heavily spray deer repellent along this edge, and maybe do some more deer fencing. Haven't decided yet, but definitely got to keep those critters out of here, because there's a lot of money in these shrubs, and you know, they keep chewing on them. Okay, walking back toward the house, still on project number 4, by the way, in case you've lost track. The other thing I want to add here, and I've mentioned this before, is a couple of shrubs or something here to hide the view of these gas tanks from up here. The blue caps drive me nuts. So we will put something here, evergreen, that will sit behind here and block my view of those tanks. So part of project number 4 also includes the shade area, but not expanding the shade area. So this is where I have to keep a rein on myself here. The shade area has been, it was probably one of the first areas that I planted when I started digging up the old gardens and cleaning stuff out. So it's been here a while. I've been adding things, but I haven't really expanded it too much since its original beginning. And I definitely want to expand it. There's way more shade beyond this maple here that is just grass. And I want to expand it all the way to the blueberries, but not this year, not this year. I'm going to keep repeating that mantra, not this year. Next year maybe, we'll see. But anyway, there's still a lot of bare spots in here, and there are things that I want to move into other areas of the garden where I think that these plants might do better. Some of them are struggling right now. So this will all be tied in with the rest of the garden in the filling in part of the project, adding things, moving things around. So yeah, so that's project number 4 in its entirety. A big one, but I think it's manageable. Okay, I can see that I've already sort of painted myself into a corner, because one of the things I definitely have to do this year, even though it's not one of the 5 projects that I promised to stick to in 2026, is this little drainage channel here off of the herb garden. The herb garden is over here. This handles the water that comes off that gutter and drains it out into the driveway. It's become infiltrated with the runner grass that comes from the lawn, and that runner grass has infiltrated into the herb garden. So one of the very first things I'm going to do this spring, once the ground thaws, is dig this out and get rid of the grass, dig out the chives that are the main plant that has been infiltrated by the runner grass, and kind of clean this up. It'll take me like a day, maybe, yeah, about a day, to get this all done. So I'm not going to consider this one of the 5 projects, but if you see me working on this in a video, don't yell at me. I have to get this done. I need to clean this up and keep the runner grass from running into the herb garden from the lawn, such that it is. Our lawn really isn't a lawn. It's just a collection of green stuff that also happens to have this runner grass in it, which is why it's infiltrating. So I need to dig down and put a barrier to keep it from coming from the lawn again, and then redo this little channel so that we can get water draining away from the house. So don't count this among the 5 projects. This is a, I don't know, unofficial project. Well, here we are in the pond garden, and this is it. This is project 5 of 5 that I'm going to be working on in 2026. This project is very much the same as the other ones. I'm just finishing what I started last year. So the main focus of this project is getting all these bare garden spaces planted with something. Like I mentioned with the other gardens, bare ground is just, it drives me crazy. It's a recipe for weeds and erosion, and we know we have a lot of water flowing through this space, so it's really prone to erosion. So I want to get as much plant material as I can into this space before the year's end. So let's take a little walk around and I'll show you what's left to be done. Right off the bat at the entrance to the pond garden, have a little work here to do to bring this entrance into the driveway that goes out into the pasture. We did dig out quite a bit of the grass last year, and this is basically the edge of the garden space, I believe. This edge here. And it follows all the way to the end to this post. So it runs from this post over here to this corner, and we're actually going to extend this wall out a little bit to make it all symmetrical with the other end. So the rocks will come out to this corner here. And then the rest of this grass will get dug out and just covered over with more of the ledge pack driveway material, so that it all kind of blends in, and it'll blend, this entranceway will blend into it. As you can see on the ends here, I've got big piles of soil. That was from the big pile of soil that used to be up here, but before we could move our chickens from the pasture to the winter hoop house, we had to move that pile of soil because it was right in the path that my husband has to take with the tractor. So many buckets of dirt later, we moved most of it here and here, and some of it to another garden spot, and then smoothed out that whole area back there that will get planted in pasture grass this spring. But anyway, so we have fresh material here that'll get distributed throughout the beds, and then we have to get planting. All of this has to get planted. Lots of planting space here. And then this interior bed as well, all has to get planted, as well as this bed here, which is still mostly buried under snow. Our patio is under here. Yeah, so all of this space has to get planted. Now there are plants in this section here. A couple of them are going to get moved over into that far section. But as you can see, lots and lots of bare dirt. So this will be the year of planting and hopefully adding more compost and maybe an initial layer of bark mulch, although I don't want to rely on bark mulch too much for coverage. I'd rather do plants and compost, but to keep weeds down. As you can see, weeds are already starting, they just want to grow. Already starting to grow right there. So yeah, there's a bunch of shrubbery in here that all look like they did pretty well in the winter. And then more planting beds here. There's nothing, absolutely nothing planted in here. Nothing planted in here. More blank space. Lovely weeping birch there. As you can see, the pond is slowly thawing. It's very interesting. It's clear now. Like 3 days ago, after we had a big rain, it was like this muddy green color from all the runoff, you know, from up there. So hopefully there are lots of little froggies hiding in the leaf litter at the bottom of this. And at the end here, this is all blank. We'll do some sort of shrubs here to cut this off. You gonna jump in? You wanna jump in? Susie is not a water dog. I have never seen her swim in the 10 years we've had her. She refuses to get into water. It's funny. All right, so yeah, so basically the name of the game this year is just planting. That's all it is. I just need to plant. Everything else, you know, can wait. I need to get plant materials in here to get the ground covered and stabilized so that it's not eroding off into the pond or, you know, out into the channel here across the road. Yeah, lots of plants. And I'll be planting up these 3 planters here that are along the top with some sort of cascading annual collection that will hopefully spruce everything up along the wall here and make it really interesting. And this is the garden space that will be built once we clear out behind the house, build up a berm of garden space right there and have some interesting shrubs there as well that you can see from this vantage point. So hopefully it'll all tie everything together. All right, well that is it. 5 projects for 2026, and that is it. No more. Unless by some miracle I get all 5 done in, you know, by like July, which won't happen. And then maybe I can look at something else. But I'm gonna get these 5 projects done to the best of my ability. You know, some of these planting ones may take a bit longer because, let's face it, plant material costs money for the most part. And yeah, and I'm on a budget for sure. But I will get these vastly planted, you know, vastly more than they are now. And to the point where I feel like the soil is stabilized and weeds are somewhat under control. So yeah, 5 projects, that's it. And I'm hoping that you will hold me to that. So if you see me wandering off onto some other project, please let me know, okay? So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate that you're here. Please come back for more videos this year of me in the garden working on these 5 projects. Remember, only 5. And yeah, I expect that 2026 will be an interesting year with lots of things going on in the garden that I hope you will find interesting anyway. So thanks again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.